Hey there, I'm Eli Straw, a mental performance coach who works with athletes from all over the world on building a stronger mental game. In today's episode, I have one quick tip that you can use to boost confidence going into a game. Now, this tip is built on the principle of what we're seeing in our minds as games are beginning. Now, what I mean by that is based on how you're talking to yourself, or based on what you're thinking about, or even based on what your goal is for the game. This will change what is actually taking place in your mind in terms of what you are seeing and the kinds of pictures and scenes that are created mentally. Now, I was talking to an athlete just earlier today, actually on a one-on-one coaching call, which, by the way, if you are interested in my one-on-one coaching program, I'll put a link to that in the description below. Now, what he and I were talking about, he's a soccer player, is that we were going over the differences between the times when he plays with a lot of confidence versus the times he plays with fear. And we were specifically talking about the thoughts he has and what he focuses on going into games and how that impacts either the confidence or the fear he plays with. Now, this is one of the early sessions that I was having with him. He just started my coaching program. And early on in the coaching, I always like to first get an idea of how an athlete's thoughts and the types of thoughts they have are impacting their emotional state and their performance. And so I was asking him what kinds of outcomes and what kinds of results he focuses on. And we went through the list, and he was telling me, and as we were really starting to have this conversation, it became very clear that there were two categories of lists, positive thoughts and negative thoughts, because he was telling me that he'll think about playing good, he'll think about scoring, he'll think about making good passes, but then he'll also worry about not wanting to play badly, not wanting to make mistakes, not wanting to turn the ball over or get yelled at by his coach. And as we were talking about this, I was asking him, is there really much difference in terms of how you physically play and especially the emotional state you play in based on the types of thoughts you have? And he was telling me that there is a very, very clear difference when he's thinking about how he wants to play well and how he wants to score goals and make good passes. He plays with a lot more confidence and he plays more aggressively. When he's thinking about how he doesn't want to make mistakes, he doesn't want to turn the ball over, he plays more timid and scared. But when we look at the goal that he has, right? Not wanting to make mistakes versus wanting to play well. It's kind of the same goal if you think about it, because if he wants to play well, he wants to play well. If he doesn't want to make mistakes, we could kind of interpret that as him wanting to play well. And maybe this has been the case for yourself too, where you're going into a game and you're trying to remind yourself, okay, today I don't want to make any mistakes. I don't want to mess up today. But as I was explaining to him, our brains don't really do a whole lot with the word don't or not, or I don't want to or don't want to. All our brain hears is making mistakes. And what I mean is all our brain pictures is making a mistake. And so then I was asking the soccer player, I said, I want you to imagine that there is like a projector. So as you're thinking these thoughts before a game, there's a projector that's projecting the scenes that are being created in your mind as you're thinking about these thoughts. And I asked him, I said, when you're thinking, I want to play well, I want to score a goal, I want to make good passes, what is being projected on that screen? He said, the scenes of me doing those things and playing well. And then I was asking him, likewise, when you're thinking, I don't want to make mistakes, I don't want to get yelled at, I don't want to turn the ball over, what's being projected onto that screen? And he said, me making mistakes, me playing badly, me turning the ball over. And that right there is where the tip that I have for you really comes from. It's founded in this principle of the way we're thinking is creating these certain scenes in our mind, and that is driving either more confidence or more doubt. Because the last question that I asked this athlete when we were trying to get an idea of how we could make this change is I asked him, if you had a choice before the game to either watch a video, like a highlight reel of you playing really well, or a highlight reel, or wouldn't really be a highlight reel, but a video of you making a bunch of mistakes, which would you choose to make you feel confident? And of course, he chose watching a highlight reel of good plays. And I want to ask you the same thing. Before games, which would you rather watch? Now, right now before games, which one is taking place in your mind? Are you seeing yourself make more mistakes because you're thinking about how you don't want to mess up and your goal is to not screw up today? Or are you thinking about how you want to do well and actually visualizing yourself doing well? So all of that brings me to the importance of making sure that before the game, your mind is filled with scenes of you doing well. This can involve using visualization in the game to imagine yourself performing well for that game. But it could also involve you remembering past successes you've had. So you think back to the games you've played recently or in the past where you've done well, and you just think about those. But when we go into games thinking about how we don't want to make mistakes, even though that is coming from a good place, it can seem like a good goal, what that's doing is it's having your mind focused on making mistakes, messing up, getting yelled at. So in other words, you're thinking about negative outcomes. And we can't avoid the fact that as we think about negative outcomes, we picture those negative outcomes and our confidence drops. So right now, even if you're not playing very well, so naturally you're trying to work against those negative outcomes, or you're scared of losing your starting position, I can't emphasize enough the importance of visualizing and imagining past successes before games, because we have to make sure that what's being projected on that screen before the game begins for you is scenes of you playing well. And when you're able to make that happen, you're going to be playing with more confidence. As I said earlier, if you're interested in the one-on-one coaching I offer, I'll put a link to that in the description below. And I also have links in the description below to the 2 courses I have available, the 2 online courses. One is the Confident Competitor Academy, and one is the Mentally Tough Kid course. And I now have 2 books that I self-published on Amazon. One is called Mind Games, and it is a collection of short stories that goes through different athletes who are managing mental game challenges. I have it right here behind me, and I'll put a link to it in the description below as well. And then I also have my new book titled Athlete Mental Training. That is a pure mental training guide for you as an athlete that goes through the different mental game challenges that you'll face. It walks you through strategies to manage them, and then it also walks you through how to build mental skills, and has a part in the back where there are some mental training exercises for you to go through as well. And again, both those books are in the description below. If you have any questions about this episode or any sports psychology or mental training topic, please let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and I wish you the best of success in all that you do.